Yay! We are recording. So, welcome to Too Much Mary. And this channel is all about giving you the tools, giving you life hacks and lessons from people that have mastered something in their life in order to give you something with which you can work on and just implement in your life and completely become the best version of yourself, basically. So today, on the other side of my laptop, we're doing this online because Rich is from England, and yeah, that's why we're doing it online, basically. Like, there's a sea. How do you say it, Richard? Sea between us.
We'll just say there's a little bit of water between us.
Water between us, yes. So yeah, I know Rich for I don't know a year now, 2 year, probably a year, right?
Coming up to a year now, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So I've known Richard for a year, and we've met in this amazing online digital academy, which is just a whole other thing I would not go into because we could then definitely speak about it for hours and just kind of drift off the main thing that I wanted to speak today. So we met in this great community online, and it's a digital platform where we learn everything about marketing, business, mindsets, basically everything that we learn, we implement and meet all sorts of amazing people. And Rich is one of them. So with Rich, we have this also an accountability group, and we've spoken many times. So we are really, really always just having these deep conversations, which for my channel is ideally perfect. So yeah, Rich, hello. I'm gonna let you speak now.
Yeah, sure. So,
Hi.
hello everyone. Yeah, obviously that's a rather nice introduction I've had. First, I'm going to apologise for the terrible lighting in this room and the fact that I'm wearing a blue fleece. Unfortunately, being in England at the moment, I'm not blessed with sunshine and hot temperatures, unlike most other places. Obviously, I've been brought on here to. Obviously, I'm being interviewed by Mary. So, where would you like me to start?
So yeah, let's just start at meat and potatoes of it. Like I would just go straight into it. Like I don't think there is a point in saying it around the corner and just trying to speak into it slowly. Let's just go straight to the point because that's how I operate. So I would just straight up talk to you about how why I brought you up here is because I've learned something about you that really, really interested me. And I always was interested in the beliefs, how beliefs impact our lives, how they change us, how they mold us throughout our life. Even Too Much Mary is like believe and become, because I know that beliefs are in the core of any big change. And I've seen with you when we were having a discussion the other day, when you just kind of randomly said it, and I was like, what? And it was an interesting thing because after all these conversations we had, you just kind of randomly said it, and I was really just surprised by it, where you said that when you were a kid, I'm correct, a kid, right?
You can
And you
call
were
it whatever you like. Diagnosed at 11, and I think I know
oh,
where you're
okay.
going with this.
Okay, so when you were 11, a teenage, a kid, they kind of marked you, they wanted to put you in a box where they were like, okay, so you have this learning disability. And that really surprised me because in the last year since I've known you, you have grown big, a lot. And you are always really curious and interested in learning new things. And it was like, for me, I couldn't imagine you being perceived as having a disability to learn. And that really was interesting to me because I was immediately asking myself, well, you don't seem to have difficulties with learning. So tell me, Richard, what happened that you didn't kind of take that as a part of your personality, but that did you just ignore that? from your doctor, or did you cope with it, or did you want to overcome it? Just can you speak about that? Because I think it is amazing that you just didn't, that it doesn't impact you.
Okay, so there's a lot of questions in there, and I'm going to decipher it some which way. So, from what I can make out, basically, this all kind of started for me when I was diagnosed at around 10 or 11, and the learning disability I was branded or labelled with was Asperger's syndrome, which is on the autistic spectrum. At the time, it wasn't as well known, and it was kind of like this big, scary thing that, you know, it's kind of like, okay, so you're not going to be able to do this, you're not going to be able to care for yourself, you're not going to have this, and it's kind of like you're told by all these like psychiatrists and that how this is how your life is going to be, and it's kind of like you're almost, how can I put this? I'm looking for the exact word of choice. Conditioned. We're going to say conditioned into believing that this is how your life will be from now on. And to be totally honest with you, for the majority of my teenage life, that was probably playing very true. Now, you know, I pretty much spent most of my teenage life either bouncing in and out of school, because at the time I really couldn't cope in large crowds, loud noises, things like this. I couldn't maintain eye contact with people. And how much of this was down to that belief of what's already been installed in me, and how much of it was actually a mental difficulty, I'll let others decide. But the one thing that I did learn, believe it or not, only this year, and it was interesting how it all happened, and that was that when I got through school and all of this sort of took place, you know, I had to go out into the working world, and, you know, when you're exposed to these kind of things, it was kind of like sink or swim. Because it's kind of like, you've got to go out, you've got to earn a living, you've got to make things work by somehow. Now, I was blessed enough to obviously be living at home, so that is a bonus, and the fact that it meant that I was kind of looked after, shall we say, in the way that we were told that it should be. And you sort of work in routines, and things have to be done in such a certain way. But then when you get into a relationship, you see, and you get your first girlfriend, not all partners are as happy to accommodate these things. So, as you can imagine, to kind of have that discussion, oh, by the way, this is who I am and this is how things are, is kind of like, whoa, you know, and this can be a lot for someone to take on when you've only known them, say, I don't know, a month or so. Because certain things are pretty obvious. Like, you know, there are certain things that you pick up on if you've had any exposure to it in the past. You're kind of like, okay, well, I can see where that little thing is, or that little habit, or that's a strange little quirk you've got. And, you know, eventually you might put two and two together and figure out, okay, this guy isn't like all of the rest. And it's interesting how some of it can be actually misinterpreted. So from someone being generally quite nice, you know, from some of these people I've met in the past, they weren't quite used to that. So, you know, again, eventually it was kind of like, you know, you're so different to everyone else. And that was something I'd heard a lot, because you are branded as different and normal. Whereas now I'm very quick to question, well, what is normal and what is different? Because, you know, if you look at different countries in the world, for example, we all behave differently in one country to another country. So what's the difference to that? Whereas if you have two people born in the UK and one was born with a slightly different way of thinking or a different mindset from birth, what's the difference, really? So, you know, after going through quite a tough teenage life, you know, breakup here, new girlfriend there, another breakup there, something kind of snapped in me, and it wasn't really pretty. And it was at that point where I really hit like the lowest low, where I can recall, and I'm not really a fan of talking about this, but yes, I did get to the point where I almost wanted to take my own life. And it was not pretty at all. And I don't want to stay on this subject for too long, but if I that I've met through golf, because that was my hobby, that's kind of what I sunk into. And that obsessive part of me that was, you know, because of one of the other traits that comes with autism is you get obsessed with things that you get quite attached to quite easily. I met some very, very good friends that, again, kind of understood me. I don't know what it was. Maybe everyone knows when you meet someone, you kind of just you bond very quickly. And to be honest, if I didn't have these kind of friends, then who knows? But they're very quick to support me whenever I felt like there was whenever there was something kind of wrong. They kind of learned quite quick, so they kind of helped me through the next few years. And you see, the way I kind of had to learn how to socialize and things like that was I looked at my friends and I kind of had to become this chameleon that almost blended in with these people. So I learned how to communicate. I learned those little bits of confidence from my friends by observing how they behaved and things like that. And I kind of started to like monkey see, monkey do, yeah, like we do as children. And I kind of learned a lot of my social skills that way. And then as I progressed on, things got easier. I found that a lot of the things I was finding super tough at the start generally got a little bit easier, and my confidence grew. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm far from, some of these famous people you've seen in the past that you look at them straight away and you go, wow, how polished are they? Don't get me wrong, just being on here right now, there's that little hint of nervousness playing up now because it's the unknown, isn't it? We always fear as human beings the unknown. And I've always suffered a little bit in that area with confidence because of obviously the amount of things that had happened and all of this, but you get the message. I'm not one to stay there. But the biggest turning point for me after going through all of this was actually in January 2018, so the year we're in right now while this is being filmed. And I'd been with this girl who I'd met through my current employment at the time, nearly 3 years. And I found that things got so out of kilter because I got so comfortable in something that I was spending most of my life on video games. If anyone's generally interested in the actual video game, it was Destiny on PlayStation. And that obsessive part of me latched onto something that really wasn't too great for me. And I spent most of my waking hours on that game. And it became like my version of life. So if I wasn't working, I was on there. And sometimes I'd even be on there as late as 5 a.m. And I had some, buddies who I used to speak to online, etc.
Yeah. The whole gaming situation going on. Yeah.
So, it was like I'd be on there till 5 a.m. sometimes, and I had a shift to get to. So it was like crazy, and my life was just completely out of whack. So, as you can understand, not seeing the partner, putting on weight, getting lazy, no drive, no motivation. You can kind of see where this is going, right? It's only a matter of time before the inevitable had to happen, and she broke up. And I only recently learned the reasons as to how all this happened this year as I started to study how the mind works more, because I was just fascinated. But after she broke up with me, it kind of, there's something just happened inside of me. When I finally picked myself up again, I said, look, you've got two choices. You can stay down here for the rest of your life and you can never achieve anything, or you can use this as a way of life trying to tell you, you've got to do something about this. Now, what are you made of? What are you going to go and do with it? And I kind of said, well, okay, so I'm electing to take that. And I don't know what it was. Someone just mentioned the name. I must have heard the name Tony Robbins somewhere. And I just thought, well, can't I hurt to check it out? So I went straight to YouTube because it was the obvious place to start. And then I suddenly just got so fascinated by all the stuff that he was saying that it then led to things like Jim Rohn, Les Brown, all these other famous people. And I just started going absolutely nuts. And I started like journaling in my books. This is one of them, for example. And I just got so fascinated as to how the mind works. I thought, I wonder if I can do something with this. And it was like almost like that. Everything just flipped. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And as I started to build on this, I started to realize that a lot of the things and a lot of the beliefs we have, literally, they're nothing but a label, Asperger's syndrome, label, and then I could go into other areas. I could say things like 9 to 5 is a label. What does it really mean? who created that? It wasn't something that existed
Mm-hmm.
once upon a time. Someone made that up. So you really can choose your own beliefs and what you want to believe in. Because here's the really fascinating thing. You choose your beliefs, and then your beliefs will create you and your whole reality around you.
Yeah.
If you woke up one morning and decided from now on, I am no longer fearful of this, then that is the kind of person that you will become with this new
Mm-hmm.
belief. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you can wake up and just click your fingers and all of a sudden you're a famous speaker on
Mm-hmm.
stage. There's a lot of work that's got to go in to get there. But by just changing that belief over time, your whole personality changes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when you mentioned about this online community, again, this is not what it's about, but by just being in there and surrounding myself by a whole different level of people,
Mm.
just
Yeah.
raises you up and changes who you are, because the law of familiarity, isn't it? That
Mm-hmm.
your 5 biggest influences, you will
Mm.
always be the average, and that's been scientifically proven.
Yep.
So that is kind of where we're now ended up, where the
Mm.
only way I've been able to change all of this was the pain of that happening, that kind of kick-started the change, that created this fascination of how the mind works, that has enabled me to go from there to here to when we're sat here now.
Yes. So yeah, it's interesting. Like I heard it all, and I heard especially like I could like just sense those people around you, people around you, like the friends that you kind of observed and taken on, like their behavior in order to feel as if you're one of them, in order to feel like I'm not different, I can do the same as they. The moment where your girlfriend left you, again, people, she sparked that. And now this community, like surrounding yourself with people who don't give, like, I'm gonna say it, not give a shit about what your label in the real world is. Like they don't even care about that. Even I never like did, like when I met you, like, so what are your labels? Like, we don't go into that. And I think it is a really important thing that I just noticed. It's a skill where you gain it from the people you surround yourself with. So if you want to take on the skill of golf players, hang out with golf players. If you want to gain the beliefs in being confident, hang out with confident people. Like surround yourself with those kind of people. And I've seen it in my life over and over again, especially now in this period of my life, on this journey where I was grieving for the loss of all the people that didn't match my frequency, if you know what I mean. But I'm now just kind of, that's in the past, and now I'm just kind of really aware when I'm surrounding myself with people. I'm really picky, and I don't mind. I don't see it as a bad thing. I just see it as, you know what, if I'm gonna surround myself with people, I have to choose consciously who I'm gonna surround myself with, because we can fall into so quickly into our surroundings and stay there because of our beliefs. You know what I mean? If I'm gonna be in my 9 to 5 job and surround myself with 9 to 5 people who see that as a way of life, and I am in there trying to see myself as a successful person, of achieving something, of doing something of purpose, like that group of people will drag me down. I won't lift them up, you know? So I have to be the one consciously choosing the people who are I'm gonna surround myself with, who are gonna lift me up. And it does matter because, we start to believe in a reality that we see around us. How many things in our life we believe just because, well, we had that experience in life.
What do you believe is possible?
Yes.
And there's that famous saying, isn't there? You'll see it before you believe it. Well, you need to kind of flip that and say, well, instead of I'll believe it when I see it, it's like I will see it,
Believe it
see
and see it.
yeah, flip it. It's
Yeah.
tongue-tied moment.
Yeah. It's like you don't have to, like, when we're imagining something for ourselves, I feel as if, yeah, it is like I have to believe in order to see, but where does that belief come from? It doesn't just kind of, you wake up with it one day, you know. You have to first see it in your environment that it is possible for you to do something like that, because you see people who are doing that. That's the power of the community, because you see people doing things that you don't ever thought about possible. And when
Inspired,
you see,
follow on.
yeah, yeah, and when you see 10 people doing that, and you see them and you know them, well, you start believing in yourself as well. Like, if they can do it, I can do it, because you start to relate to them. And if you put yourself in an environment where there is always lack of something, of abundance, of money, of time, of any kind of thing, if you intentionally surround yourself with people who are constantly saying those things and are living that way, well, guess what? Like Richard said, your 5 people closest around you, you know, that's gonna impact you, and you will start to believe in that as well, you know. It maybe it would be different if you're like one on one with someone, you know, if they're that side of the world and you're here that side of the thinking world. Maybe if it's one on one, maybe you could win them over into thinking better, you know. But if there's 5 people who are thinking negative and you are just positive, you know, it's difficult, especially in the beginning where you're still not kind of, you know, anchored in your positive energy. I think it's so easy for the sea of negativity to just kind of rock your boat, if you know what I mean.
Crab in a bucket analogy, that's the easiest way to try and describe it. When one crab tries to get out, the other crabs will pull you back down again.
Mm,
You know, literally, your circle of influence will
yeah.
literally define who you are. So, like as you correctly said, because of the law of familiarity, what you're
Mm,
familiar with and what is around you,
mhm.
you
It's
are.
so interesting. It's a completely different perspective of beliefs that I heard. So thanks for that insight. Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah. Okay. So cool. I'm just writing these things down because I think it's just amazing what you just said. That kind of triggered that thinking of me, where belief is a skill of familiarity. How you gain the skill.
It's a law. It's the law of familiarity. Whatever, you know, literally you will become, you know, and it's like another little great trick. And if you're trying to really change something about yourself, your mind loves what's familiar. So
Mm-hmm.
if what's familiar to you is, I don't know, let's choose an example, eating loads of food and having it as a comfort, well, you need to flip that and now start saying things to yourself like, you know, I actually love how slim I am. I don't want to eat that because otherwise that's going to jeopardize that. But by literally just flipping it and making it now something that's unfamiliar and making being slim familiar, you will automatically go to work and start trying to make that happen. Your mind is always acting in your best interest. But if you keep saying things to yourself like, I'm never going to be able to afford that because I haven't got the money for it, your mind's going to go, okay, no problem. I'll make sure you haven't got the money for that, because it will do everything you tell it to. And I know this sounds woo woo and
Mm-hmm.
out there to some people, but I'm being genuinely serious. There'll have been moments in your life that if something's happened, if you think back, give you another good example, right? Oh, you have a bad speech, and afterwards you say, that was so bad, I never want to do that again, right? Next time you've got to make a speech, how often do you start to feel ill?
Mm-hmm.
You've got horrible headache or you've got the runs. People generally put that down to nerves, but if you think right back, the very last time that happened, you were saying horrific things like, you know, oh, I never want to do that again. That killed me, or that made me feel horrible. The brain's going to do exactly what you've just told it. It's going to say, okay, it's fine, no problem. I can arrange that. So the next time it comes up, uh-oh, you said last time, I never want to do that again. And it will make arrangements to ensure you certainly don't. You'll have diarrhea or something on the day. Yeah? But if you can just change that and flip it, I guarantee you that that will change. And these are all things that I'm learning on this most recent course I've done, because again, I'm obsessed with wanting to learn. more about how all this works.
Mm.
And I find that the more you learn these kind of things, the more you can kind of bring in and use yourself. But the thing is, how can you help someone else if you can't help yourself?
Yeah.
So in order for me to be more use and bring more value to other people's lives, then I need to be my best version of myself before I can go out
Yes.
and do these things. Because, you know, for example, if you want to be a personal trainer, don't be 18 stone, heavily overweight, and unable to run up a flight of stairs. Because, firstly, what kind of personal trainer do you think that is? Secondly, who the hell do you think is going to come to you? Yeah, it's exactly the same principle.
I think it is really interesting how we see it manifesting, like we see it happening when we imagine something like the worst case scenario and it happens, you know, and we're like, oh my god, well, it was an accident, well, this was how it was supposed to be. But I feel as if I, through my life, was like that, where I was like expecting the worst and it happened sometimes, and I was like, well, whatever, you know. But at the same time, when someone told me, well, if you manifest and think about something positive, it will definitely happen, I was like, nah. Isn't that interesting? Like, there's the same energy, same power, you and your beliefs and everything energetically happening the same way. It's like just different sides of the coins. But we believe in this one. When something bad happens, we're like, well, you know, it happened because I believed it will happen. I understand it happened. But when we look at the positive side, where it's like, oh, well, if I imagine that and I believe that it will happen, we often like discredit it. We're like, you know, that's woo stuff. That's just not happening.
But the thing is, there are laws to life. If you know, because there's going to be people right now, right? As soon as you've mentioned the word manifest,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are going to go, yeah, okay, I follow that, because they're
Mm-hmm.
probably already into a lot of personal development stuff themselves. But if they're not, then there are laws to life, and
Mm-hmm.
if you break them, it isn't going to work for you. But if you use them to your advantage, it will. I mean, there are certain laws that you can come up with immediately, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, for example, the tide goes out. What happens to the tide afterwards? It has to come back in. You know, night always follows day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the leaves fall off the trees, but as soon as the seasons go back around again, the leaves randomly appear again. Well, it's exactly the same in humans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are certain laws that if you break, you're going to get pain. But if you realize these, learn these, and understand these, and start using them yourself, things do start to happen. It's crazy, and you know, I'm not saying that if you're completely crippled from the waist down and you're completely unable to walk, right? That just by chanting, I feel better, I feel better, I feel better, you're going to magically be able to walk again. I would like to add very quickly that there have been miraculous stories where of people completely changing the way they have, you know, the way they live their life and completely switching things up here.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing stories have happened.
Mm-hmm.
So you still can't dismiss that. It could still happen, but I'm
Yes.
not promising that. You know, but
Yeah.
just simple things like, you know, people that are terribly negative, that, you know, live their life literally
Mm-hmm.
thinking, oh God, you know, I've pulled my girlfriend on it hundreds of times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've said how before they go in to start a shift at work, they're already saying, oh God, these nights are always terrible.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
shift's always really busy.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden they've rung, you know, she's rung me the next morning. She said, I said, so how was your shift last night? Well, not bad actually, you know. And but you know, these things, they do happen. It's like, you know, if I've just turned around and said immediately after they've said that, but how do you know it's going to be that bad?
Mm.
Are you psychic? You haven't reached the building yet, but you're already
Yes.
a precursor on it. So how do you know? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But you know, you can literally determine a lot yourself, because what you put out is what's going to come back.
Yeah.
And again, that sounds bonkers to some people, and if it does, then I'm sorry, it's the truth. You know, it really is. And
But we've seen it time and time, like not just me and you. You know, I think it does happen to everyone that if they wish something, it turns like it does happen. Just that maybe lack of awareness of spotting it. You know, I had like a situation where even before I did believe this stuff and went into personal development mindset, trying to understand the whole process of beliefs and everything that's going on in here, you know, I had a case where I, like half a year ago, and a year ago even, like when I stopped and just kind of started to think to myself and wrote things down. I wrote things down that happened that 2 years ago, a year ago, I really badly desired. You know, things that I desired once are now, nowadays, when I'm looking at my life, true. And I think if I wasn't trying to give attention to it, if I wasn't consciously trying to spot it, okay, did it really happen? I think we just kind of miss at it, you know? How many times we go through life and we're like, well, yeah, I desire this. And then 10 years later, you're actually living that life, but you don't get it. You don't even look back and say, well, oh, I actually wanted this to happen because of the lack of,
and vice versa.
yeah,
It's not so great, you know. But
yeah.
I mean, if you really want me to break it down to something like almost so simplistic that you have to believe it. I mean, what if I said to you this, right? If you walked around feeling miserable, beat up because you've had a rough morning and you're frowning, right? And you look like you're walking like this, like head down, all of that, okay? What you're putting out is nothing more than this, right? Do you think people are going to be able to tell that? Because your body language doesn't lie.
Yeah.
Okay. Certain gestures, another thing we've been taught. You know, if you're all closed up and you're like this, what's everyone's first impression when I cross my arms and I sit like this? Well, first of all, I'm crossing because I'm protecting my chest. Okay. So, you know, what's the first impression? I look mad, don't I? And, you know, people will naturally probably start to do this when that is the case. Whereas if I'm smiling and I've got my arms open and everything like this, you're immediately thinking, you know, he's quite happy. But what you're thinking inside here, you will automatically and subconsciously
Project, yeah.
project. Exactly. And it's exactly the same in everything else. If you really want it on a really basic level, well, there it is. And again, that is another law. What you put out will come back. If you look moody, right, you're going to get hit with moody people. Because
absolutely,
by walking around like that, all of the ones that are smiley and happy are going to get right out of your way because they're not going to want to know, right? But all of a sudden, you might bump into someone, they might be rather cheesed off, but you're going to get hit with exactly that. But the amount of times I've walked around now since I've started realizing this, quite smiley, quite happy, you know, you end up having some great conversations with people. And the proof is when we go to live events, you know, everyone believes the same thing. Hence why we've all met in the same spot and everyone is exactly the same. Because if they didn't believe in the same things as you, they wouldn't end up in the same place as you. Because it literally attracts in like a magnet.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I, like, it is apparent, you know, if you offer a smile, you're gonna get a smile back. And that's not just like, because it's polite and because I should have, but like, it is something more than that. You know, it is people sense your openness, your energy. And oftentimes you have a feeling where, you know, if you start your day with being all cheery and being all positive and just trying to like be really into like start a day with gratitude or anything that kind of sets you in for a day, that, you know, that you anchor yourself in yourself and just, you know, nothing can just kind of move you over, you know. Like I love to use that anchor because I feel it is like at the core of us that we can anchor ourselves and be strong, in a way where if something bad happens, like I'm not gonna be upset about it, because even the positive people that we look at that are always happy, like they go through shit as well. They go through challenges as well. They just deal differently with them.
Don't even get me started on that subject. I could
I'm there.
rattle
I'm
on
there.
for hours on all of this. This is
Yeah.
the sort of stuff which I've
Yeah.
been not only
Yeah.
studying, not only reading, but
Yeah.
living.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying
I
that as well. I'm a type of person who could get just kind of moody at the second. I could. And I saw how that affected like my day, my people around me days, because if I'm like all annoying and moody, like no one's gonna enjoy that, and I'm just kind of making their life worse. And if when you love people around you, you care about also what energy you give out. And I've seen how a lot of just like smallest things can just kind of ruin my day, and I'm just like, I'm done. And what I'm trying to do is, it is a skill. I still haven't mastered it. I'm still really trying, where I'm
what
just kind
mastery
of,
takes, don't you?
what?
You know what the definition of mastery is, don't you? And how long it actually takes to master something.
Yeah, yeah, like over 10,000 hours for sure. But I have this one trick where I do it when something small happens that it's just like so annoying in that moment. It's like the biggest problem ever of the day, of the year, it seems like. I ask myself, well, if I stepped back and looked at this problem in 1 year, is it that important that I lose my energy and stress about it and ruin my day because of it? Like, is it really that big of a deal? And usually what I find is that it's not. Like, nothing. Like, if I'm alive and I'm doing okay, and if I'm safe and healthy and grateful and all the things, where I'm just like, I'm okay, it's like, I don't like smallest problems don't. If I have one reason to be grateful for, there isn't a big enough problem to mess up my day.
That's the thing, isn't it? A lot
Yeah.
of people, their problems aren't big enough.
Yeah.
And because of it, they've never experienced some of these things that are truly bad. So that even the
Mm.
smallest of minute things
Mm.
hack them off. I mean, do you know that study that was once done on happiness set point?
No, I haven't.
No?
No.
Okay, so they discovered that everyone has what's called a happiness set point.
Mm-hmm.
This is different for different people, okay? And the way they worked this out was this study was carried out numerous times and the results were always the same. So, case study A, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it took someone who suddenly got a boost of happiness to the point of elation, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the examples they chose was a lottery winner. So when this person won the lottery, you can imagine the reaction. Yes, get in. Practically hitting the ceiling on cloud nine, right? So they've now all of a sudden feel like on top of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the fascinating thing. After exactly a year, they revisited this person, okay? And
Mm-hmm.
guess what? He was back to the point where he
Mm-hmm.
started before he won the lottery, because happiness fades and wears off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that it happened way before a year. Case study B, however, someone who experienced grief. Okay, now that is the strongest and probably the darkest and
Mm-hmm.
hardest negative feeling you can experience. So you
Yes.
can imagine they were on the floor in tears and they feel like their life is over.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, they revisited after a year. They completely got over it. They had settled. They had made peace with all of this. And they were also returned to their happiness set point. And the interesting thing is, both cases bang exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, really, what is happiness when you mention this?
Mm-hmm.
Our emotions are completely hackable.
It does come back to beliefs, right? What we believe makes us happy. there is no right definition of happiness out there.
There's actually three ways that you can get a dose of happiness, and one is instant. Okay, and this, yeah, that's my phone ringing. Apologies. First one is instant, and that can be done from taking a drug, popping a pill, winning the lottery, something like that. It's an instant kick, and you instantly feel happiness. Okay. Another way of experiencing happiness is having meaning. So what you'll find is a lot of parents, when they first have their children, because their life has now been granted meaning, they now all of a sudden feel completely and utterly happy because they've experienced happiness through this. And the third is through enlightenment, and this is to do with when you feel like you've reached your center, let's say. Okay, so you feel happiness because you've achieved something. A lot of people go on like spiritual retreats to try and get to this kind of happiness. So realistically, there are three ways you can become happy. But what if we drew a line through all three and said, okay, so happiness. Obviously, I'm not recommending anyone to go out and start popping pills. Absolutely not. No. I'm not suggesting any young people to go out and have a child just to be happy. Absolutely not. And I'm also not saying to go and book as fast as you can a trip on a spiritual retreat. How about this? What if I said there were 5 things that you could do on a daily basis that would give you the feeling of happiness on tap? Literally as and when you want. You covered one of them a minute ago. So with gratitude, it is very important. Now, how do you ever expect to get more if you're not even happy for what you've currently got or appreciate what you've already got? So gratitude is massively important. And I'm not going to cover this in massive depth, and I'm not going to go through all 5 because we haven't got the time for it. And I'll be all night. But again, you know, to feel and experience like constant running happiness. It's been documented, and I've learned quite well over the last few weeks that you need to be happy in the now. It generally comes from being grateful for what you already have and appreciating it on an actual emotional level, and having a vision for your future, knowing that you are working towards something bigger and that you can actually make this happen. Once you combine both and you're getting both, that's how you reach the state of flow, which is what everyone talks about, you hear all over the place. But if you know you're working towards something you are aiming to achieve, right, and you know that you can achieve it, and you're truly happy with everything you have right now, bang. That's the shortened version. But there are 5 things you can do on a daily basis. 5 disciplines that if you were to carry out all of them, guarantee you feel happy. There's a reason why I'm smiling more than I used to. I learned this, and it's fantastic. So on that basis, yeah, I agree. But your emotions are controllable, but you're just not taught that.
For me, it just comes down to belief again. I don't know how. I just feel as if, you know, the gratitude is belief in that it works, so that it works for you. You know what I mean?
So you're tying your expectancy of happiness down to
No. I am just saying that even for me, if I was just doing gratitude and didn't believe actually that it works, that it would make me feel better, I wouldn't even try it. So in order to even just try to do the gratitude journal and do everything to consciously remind myself, because, you know, I think when you get comfortable, you also get comfortable in the gratitude, where you sometimes forget to feel grateful for the smallest things. And, you know, I have this 5-10 minutes in the morning where I consciously sit down and think about the things that are just so comfortable, just so granted for me, where I'm just like, well, you know what? It's not granted, and I'm grateful for it. You know, even just having safe, warm, cozy home, having drinking water, having food in my fridge, having the job, having the car, having the family, having all the things and all the
Go,
people.
go even simpler, because once you get to the point where even if you didn't have a home that you lived in and you had to live out on the street once upon a night, after that night that I went to the event in London, I ended up sleeping in my car and in a service station. Let me tell you, it was -2, it was freezing, I was shivering, it was not very comfortable, but even then, I stayed smiling. Now, absolutely right with the gratitude part, I literally said to myself, well, it could be a darn sight worse. I could literally be living on the street permanently. I had a nice clear light, and I just said, how nice is it to be able to actually stare at the stars? Because me, again, another thing, bit of a geek, love astrology, okay,
Yeah.
astronomy even. And the other thing was, I went, well, at least I'm wearing clothes. At least I have a car, even if it doesn't work, and I'm broken down and waiting for another tow. You know, but by just breaking those kind of things down, again, I kind of felt like, okay, I'm actually reasonably happy with this. Again, I'm not going to go down that route anymore. And
It is like simpler, but I think it depends on the situation, you know? I think it depends also on the situation where I think, yeah, it would be great to think about like being grateful for, you know, just I always kind of say the first few things like health, people around me, all of those things, like the simplest. But then I go on to the smallest things that seem so normal, you know, where it's just like a notebook. Oh, like a flower, a wall. Like I have 4 walls around me that keep me like inside. Wow. Like, you know, going into really small things, I just think that it's a powerful practice for me, because why do we get so comfortable, and why do we get so this more like problem, you know, where you always feel like more is better, like I should go for more and more and more. And I think that comes from not being able to be grateful for what we do have. And it's not about settling for what we do have. It's not about stopping here, you know. But I think it should be a balance between what I do have and what am I attracting by being grateful for even this that I have, you know. And yeah, it's just like a whole another conversation, but we will be wrapping it up soon. So I would love to go to the last 2 questions. Definitely thinking about proceeding the conversation in part 2 someday, really soon. That would be great. Yeah. So I'm just gonna go straight to the last 2 questions, which is, where can these people find you online? Because you are building a business of your own where you are just transforming lives with having your voice and being able to inspire and give them the self-belief and being able to achieve more. Where can they find you?
Okay, well, for me, it's obviously Facebook, and anyone who's watching this, you'll happily see my full name, Rich Francis, actually on the bottom of this yellow box where I'm talking right now. So you don't need to go too far. Likewise on Instagram, but I think on Instagram it's Rich DA Golfer, Rich De Golfer. Yeah, made when I was quite young, so as you can imagine, it is a bit of a funny name. I have most social platforms, and obviously my website, which is Weekend Lifestyle. But the thing is, I've also got a YouTube channel which should be starting soon.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that obviously I'm more than happy to go down the route which you've just happily said, but obviously my business is slightly different to what you probably expect. But by all means, feel free to reach out. Not a problem.
Okay. So I will be writing these below this video. I will share so that they can have access to follow you on social media, to be in your life in a way, which is interesting what social media does today. And yeah, the last question would be, what do you think at this time in your life today is the absolute truth for you?
Want to rephrase that for me?
So at this moment, if you think about today, not your past or future, at this moment, what do you think is an absolute truth that you've seen in your life?
Absolute truth. Great question.
Mm.
Now you've really got me curious and thinking at the same time. I would say, no matter where you are and what you are doing
Mm-hmm.
in your life at this present moment in time, don't limit yourself to what you can go on and do by getting in your own way and setting negative beliefs. You are capable of far more than you give yourself credit for, and pretty much we're living in such a digital age nowadays where just about anything you could possibly want is possible and can be done. If you are looking at wanting to achieve something, simple answer is to find someone who has something that you want and learn from them. That is the easiest and fastest way to get to somewhere that you want to be further in the future.
Amazing. I'm just gonna leave it there. Bam, mic drop. So I'm happy that you were able to join me. I'm happy that you took your time out of your day and energy to do this video and share your wisdom with people who are gonna watch this. So I acknowledge you for showing up and for speaking just the truth, and not only speaking but also listening. I want to also point out that it's equally important, and I thank you for your time today. So we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to leave all the links below and see you in the next video for Too Much Mary. If you like this, subscribe and stay tuned. Bye for now.